Live from New York. This is the Harvey Hour. My name is Nathan Harvey, and as always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. How you doing today? It's September 1st. I don't know how many episodes we've had at the start of a month, but this is one of them. Friday, September 1st. How you doing today?
First day of September.
Yeah, it's cold. I think it was like on record for one of the lowest lows in a very, very long time.
Yeah?
I think it was 1 a.m. It was 56 degrees out.
Wow.
In September, it was crazy. Wow. So
it's cool. I'm glad. I like it cool.
Yeah, no, it's getting cold out. It's getting colder out. But I think we were gonna hit some hot weather.
That cool football weather.
Yeah, no, football starts in under 7 days. Next Thursday is Week 1. Lions versus the Chiefs. Thursday night football. Football is 6 days away. But don't worry, we'll save that for Tuesday's episode of the Harvey Hour. We got some interesting news that happened this past week, so let's get right into it with our first topic of today's show. So the Patriots decided to waive both Bailey Zappi and Malik Cunningham just for them to somehow, I'm surprised Bailey Zappi didn't get claimed, but both of them went unclaimed, and the Patriots signed them to the practice squad. And then I believe yesterday, the Patriots decided to sign a former Panthers quarterback, Matt Corral, who was out injured all of last season, to be the backup to Mac Jones. Now, reportedly, Bailey Zappi and Matt Corral will fight each other for that backup position role, but as of right now, the only two quarterbacks on the Patriots roster are Mac Jones and Matt Corral. So I don't know, do these moves show that Bill Belichick finally believes in Mac Jones as the starting quarterback, or is something crazier going on in New England?
I think that they started the season thinking there was going to be a quarterback competition between Zappi and Jones. And I think Zappi, it went to his head a little bit. I think he thought he was better than he actually was, and he played terrible. He really played very poorly in the preseason, and I think Bill O'Brien has a view of what a quarterback should bring to the table and what their strengths should be, and he knows what their weaknesses are. And I think he is the one that has really gotten down on Zappi and convinced Belichick that they should release them and then bring them back on the practice squad. So I think it has more to do with Bill O'Brien actually than I think with Bill Belichick. I think.
Do you think
Bill O'Brien is a very strong voice? I think he's a very strong voice on the offense. You know, because he's the offensive coordinator now, and he's a true offensive coordinator. He's not someone who's learning the position. He knows what it takes to be a great offensive coordinator, and he has Bill Belichick's respect because he was the offensive coordinator for the Patriots back when Brady was the quarterback at one point, and they did win Super Bowls in those. In that time frame. So I think that Bill O'Brien believes Mac Jones is number one. And I think that Bill Belichick's smart enough to say, you're my offensive coordinator, you're making these calls, I'm going along with your decision-making.
I think that's the smartest choice, to let someone else decide the offense, because we've seen Belichick make very, very bad decisions. Last year, we saw he signed a defensive coordinator and a special teams coordinator to be the offensive play caller and the QB coach to Mac Jones in his second year, which I said even before, we heard the rumors about, the offense being stagnant in training camp. That's a setup for failure. You signed a defensive coordinator to call your offensive plays and a special teams coordinator. Both, by the way, were failure as head coaches on the on their respective teams, the Lions and the Giants. You bring them in and put them into positions that they're not prepared for and they're not really designed to do. Matt Patricia, he's not an offensive guy. Joe Judge, he worked in special teams. We saw what he did with Daniel Jones. He was a 26th ranked quarterback. Why is it a good idea to make him your QB coach? I have no idea. Reportedly, Belichick wanted to get Bill O'Brien last year, but he was worried that he would be so popular this year that he would find a head coaching job and only have 1 year with New England. Bring him in this year, and now he's the OC. Now, what I think, when you talk about Bailey Zappi, that offense looked anemic every time Bailey Zappi was out there. I have it right here.
passes where he had time to throw the ball. He wasn't within 10 yards of the guy.
In the preseason,
it's a very poor passes.
In the preseason, he was tied for 27th in passing touchdowns with 1. He was 39th in passing yards at 253. He had an overall grade of a 50, which is not good, not great, not even really, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
So Bailey Zappi did not have the best of the preseason. But I was more shocked how he wasn't even claimed on any waivers because all the hype around Zappi last year, Patriots fans telling him to bench Mac Jones, especially after that Bears game where Mac Jones probably even wasn't ready to go, but decided to get there anyway. It was Zappi all last season. I'm surprised with all the hype and with all what Patriots Nation knows about Bailey Zappi and how a lot of them think he should be the starter, that he didn't get even claimed by any team. And we just saw P.J. Walker get picked up again. I guarantee you Bailey Zappi is probably a better quarterback than P.J. Walker. And somehow he got picked up, and Bailey Zappi didn't even get a waiver claim, which is pretty interesting.
Well, what do you think about Matt Corral?
Well, there's really there's nothing on him. He hasn't played at all. He was injured last season. He's a third-round pick out of Mississippi. I mean, there's really nothing there. And what I love about this move, actually, what I was shocked, but I sort of understood it because the one thing Mac Jones didn't need is that zappy pressure. So to waive him, you're saying no, it's Mac Jones's team, and that's why they didn't even bring him up to be the backup. They brought in Matt Corral, a guy who literally has zero experience really in the NFL, but especially zero experience in the Patriots offense. This is now officially Mac Jones's team. There is no pressure how Matt Corral, who has no experience on the Patriots team or know the system or really know who's on the team at the moment. He probably does, but just for the sake of this, there's no pressure for him to take your job. Bailey Zappi was a huge distraction to Mac Jones, because all the fans wanted him, especially after he played okay. His best game was against the Browns, where he threw for over 300 yards, but the defense took the ball away from the Browns 4 times. So there's a lot of context with Bailey Zappi that didn't make him all that great. But I think this is a good move. I assume Belichick okayed this decision 100%. He probably had final say in this. But the fact that potentially Bill O'Brien said, hey, Malik Cunningham's interesting. He was exciting, but for maybe Bill O'Brien or even Belichick himself to say, hey, we're gonna waive Bailey Zappi, we're gonna waive Malik Cunningham, and only put Mac Jones, the only QB at the time, on the roster. I think that allowed Mac Jones to breathe a sigh of relief and says, okay, now I don't have to worry about someone taking my job. Let's get the ball rolling. This is my team. Time to focus on being the best quarterback I could be for the New England Patriots. So I think I was shocked when I first heard Bailey Zappi and Malik Cunningham are both cut from the Patriots. They brought him back on the practice squad, which was expected. But the fact that Matt Corral is right now on the active roster and Bailey Zappi isn't, and I don't know, it's definitely interesting there.
I think they're trying to kill a Zappi in the crowd if Mac Jones comes out and has a stinker.
I think that would be the best thing, because as a third-year quarterback,
you think they'll be saying Corral? I doubt it.
I think it won't be any backup quarterback. It will just be bench Mac Jones. Bench him, bench Mac Jones. It won't be bringing any quarterback. It will be bringing anybody for Mac Jones.
Well, do you think in terms of capabilities, I was reading up on Corral. It says he's more mobile. He has a better arm than Zappi. He's taller. He's faster. He's a dual threat. He can run as well. Zappi really not much of a runner. He was a higher draft pick. But Zappi has more experience in the offense, Patriots offense. So
and
that's
so
the one thing he's got going for
I think this is a calculated move. I really do. This is one of the calculated moves, and it's a shocking calculated move, because obviously the Patriots, on I would say most assets of football, are a very, very smart team, especially on defense. Bill Belichick, drafting skill positions, that's where he gets a little bit shaky. But besides the fact, this was a move to help out Mac Jones probably. And we see Belichick never, besides maybe his rookie year when Mac Jones took the job away from Cam Newton, did he have faith or determine that Mac Jones was truly the quarterback for the Patriots? I mean, last season it was always like, the best quarterback will be out there. So we didn't know if Mac Jones was the guy or not, and that's what even fueled Bailey Zappi's fire even more, and the fans, because you couldn't say, Bill Belichick never said, oh no, this is Mac's team 100%.
Yeah, well, I think Jones hurt his credibility with Belichick when he went to other teams looking for help on the offense and also dissed the coaches on the field.
Well,
I think that
reportedly, he
bothered
asked
him.
Bill O'Brien about the system. He asked Bill O'Brien to try to help
yeah?
out. He asked the Alabama coaches. So I think it's, I think this is a good move, a good calculated move. I'm just surprised that it's a calculated move to help out a quarterback you wouldn't even name your QB1 even in this offseason. When this offseason broke, you were asked, who's the quarterback one for the Patriots? Who will be out there starting? Belichick wouldn't give an answer. This is the first move where we've sort of said, okay, this is officially Mac Jones' team. And guess what? I think he deserves it. The way he's been playing in the training camp and in practice, even in the preseason, he was getting pressure on over a third of his snaps, and they had to bench him because the offensive line was so bad in that last game against the Packers. And even then, Bailey Zappi dealt with pressure in the pocket against the Packers. Because
It was terrible.
Yeah, no, it was bad. It was bad decision making. But Bailey Zappi just, I guess the knob got turned down a little bit, and the heat, I think, at least in Mac Jones's head, gets turned down way more because the guy that the fans were cheering for isn't even on the active roster right now.
My guess is they keep him. My guess is they keep him. They leave him on the practice squad. They'll have Corral up there. If Mac Jones is terrible or gets hurt, I wouldn't be surprised if Zappi comes back off the practice squad.
And because
he's the one with the most experience.
Absolutely. And I think there's a higher chance Zappi comes in due to Mac Jones' injury than it is to Mac Jones playing bad. I mean, this offensive line was abysmal, and regardless of the fact that it was preseason and there's backup and third stringers, your starting offensive line's dealing with injuries.
Yeah, they'll give Jones a lot of room in terms of his play.
I think they should. A new offensive coordinator, a couple new weapons. You have a brand new running back. Your offensive line is not great. It's dealing with injuries.
What do you think about Jalen Reagor being picked up? He was a former first-round pick.
Yeah, no,
he had not such a bad season with Philadelphia his first year. 64 catches, 700 yards, 3 DDs. Then they traded him to. I'm not sure why they traded him to Minnesota. Minnesota didn't even play him. He only had 8 catches.
Yeah, no, I don't think this. I don't understand the move. They already have. Well, actually, no, I don't understand the move because they already have 6 wide receivers. Tyquan Thornton just got put on the short-term IR. That's why they were actually able to go out and get Corral, freed up a space, and that's what they used that space for. So there's 5 receivers right now on the roster. There's Juju, there's Devontae Parker, Kendrick Bourne, and then the 2 rookies, Kayshon Boutte and Demario Douglas. That right there is fine. Even with Tyquan Thornton there. Tyquan Thornton, I think, is more of the add-on piece there, and I think the rookies should be getting more playing time than Tyquan Thornton because they are more explosive. We saw Demario Douglas was cooking him in training camp and in practice. We saw Kayshon Boutte catch a beautiful pass. So I think those guys are going to be your playmakers, your speedsters right there. But the question is Juju going to stay healthy? Is Devontae Parker going to stay healthy? Belichick still, by the way, this is another calculated move on the offense. There was a lot of interest in Kendrick Bourne, and Belichick said, we're not trading him. And that's shocking, at least from last year when he was put in the offensive doghouse. He never played, really. Didn't get any targets. He never saw the field. And it's a shocker. Why? Because his first season with the Patriots, I believe he had over 800, or he might have had exactly 800 yards and a couple touchdowns. He was one of Mac Jones' best players, and that's what helped the offense, in Mac Jones' rookie year, helped it along a lot. And the fact that Belichick actually believes in him so much that he had a lot of interest, and Belichick sort of turned down all those trade rumors and trade hopefuls, I guess, and said, no, Kendrick Bourne's going to be on the team. I think that's another huge move, calculated move on the part of Belichick. Yeah. But Jalen Reagor, to me, I don't know if he's ever going to see the field.
I mean, I think they look at him, he's a former first rounder.
Right.
Sometimes they
go
out. Sometimes they go out and pick up players that are high draft picks that don't do so well with their original team, and then they come in for the Patriots and do very well.
That could be the case, but I don't think Jalen Reagor, he's at the very best, he's going to be a wide receiver.
Kyle Van Noy would be a good example of that.
He's still out there,
by the Lions, and they didn't do much with them. They had him for 2 years. The Patriots managed to get him, and he was a star for them.
Well, I'll say this. At the very best on this team, he's a wide receiver 4. Regardless of his draft, or regardless of where he was drafted, he's not beating out Bourne, he's not beating out Parker, and he's not beating out Smith-Schuster. So at the most, he's a wide receiver 4, and I may not even put him on the. I may not even start him because I need that young nucleus of Demario Douglas and Kayshon Boutte. They have I feel like they have a pretty big ceiling. The question is though, the wide receiver is the dependent position. How will Mac Jones play? I think the wide receivers will only play as good as Mac Jones, or actually the offensive line, I think, will affect Mac Jones, which would then in turn will affect the receivers. It all starts with that offensive line. The offensive line for the Patriots,
So
at least,
far,
is the
doesn't look too
key
good.
piece. It does not look too good. And I understand it was preseason, but the starters are dealing with injuries. Trent Brown is still a huge question mark. Cole Strange, this is his second year. He's a question mark as well. They're starting Riley Reif. He's a question mark. The only guys you really have that are the consistent guys is David Andrews and Mike Owenu. That's really all you got. Trent Brown, he was pretty bad. I don't have the video queued up or anything. First play of the preseason in Mac Jones' first game. False start. Great start to to his season, but I don't know. I think this is an interesting and potentially very well calculated move on the part of Bill Belichick. Let's get into our next topic here. So it's pretty interesting. Dalvin Cook, brand new running back for the New York Jets. Dalvin Cook believes that the team has a very realistic shot at making it to the Super Bowl, and this is what he had to say. I think it's very realistic. Obviously, you look at the roster, you look at the people we've added and the things we already had. That's why I came. That's why I'm here, to help any way I can to get to where we needed to go, and that's holding up the trophy. I mean, Dalvin Cook has faith in this team. A lot of people, especially in New York, have faith in this team to go out and win playoff games, and probably a lot of them think potentially make it to the Super Bowl here. So I want to know, have the Jets set the bar too high from themselves?
Yes, they have. They have by quite a bit, I think. Last year they were 7-10. Last time they made it to the Super Bowl was 1968. The over/under for them is 9.5 wins. That's hardly world beating. And the odds for them making the Super Bowl, based on the quote experts, they're only ranked 7th. Right? The Chiefs, the Eagles, the Bills, the 49ers, the Bengals are all ahead of them. All better teams, I think. Right? And you got the Cowboys are there too. They're in the other
The NFC.
NFC. So the AFC teams, there's quite a few of them that I think are better teams than them. Right?
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah. So I think Dalvin Cook he's run his mouth a lot since he got to the Jets, right? He's talking all the time. We're going to the Super Bowl. I'm here to help us get there. I think that's it's far from certain that the Jets are going to the Super Bowl, and I do think they've overhyped it.
Well, you brought up a couple points, and I actually had some of those points written down.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. So the last Super Bowl appearance, and the only Super Bowl appearance that the Jets have had, they won it, and that was in 1968. One and only Super Bowl that they've ever made it to was 1968. Can you tell me the last time they won the division? Last time they won the AFC East?
That's back when Rex Ryan was the...
Nope. The year I was born, 2002.
That was the last time. They won the division.
They won the division.
Yeah, they got in as wild cards.
The last time they won a playoff, and the last playoff appearance and playoff win was in 2010, and that was the Rex Ryan, Mark Sanchez, where they beat the Patriots. The last winning record was 8 years ago, 2015, with Ryan Fitzpatrick, and I believe Todd Bowles was the head coach. I could be wrong, but I think Todd Bowles was the head coach of the Jets at the time. So the fact that they are already going in saying, we're making it to the Super Bowl, let's take a step back here. Yes, the team is good. The team is very good. But Aaron Rodgers is coming off one of his worst seasons that he's had, probably the worst season in his career, or at least in a very, very long time. Breece Hall's come back from an ACL. Dalvin Cook has lingering injuries throughout the year. I believe, really, the wide receiver core is a little bit overrated. Garrett Wilson just came off Offensive Rookie of the Year. Believe me, well-deserved. Allen Lazard, a good key piece to Rodgers' arsenal back in Green Bay. He's a reliable piece. If Garrett Wilson misses a route, like Randall Cobb said, receivers won't get targeted if you screw up a route. He'll be the target that Rodgers goes to. Mecole Hardman, he's a special teams guy. He's not really that top receiver. He's a wide receiver 3. Randall Cobb, I'm going to bring this up. He's a mummy. He's a walking mummy. He's a fossil in the NFL. An old guy. He may get, at the very most this season, 30 targets. At the very most. Because I think he's wide receiver, 4? Now, Cody Davis retired. So he may get, or Corey, he may get a few more, but I don't think he's getting that many. The defense was ranked 4th last year. Defenses tend to fluctuate in rankings. So we don't know if they're going to have a top 5 defense. They very well could, but defenses tend to fluctuate. And then we get into the playoffs, right? And by the way, in a much hard, the AFC is significantly hard, and honestly, it's probably the hardest it's been in a very, very, very long time. Now
There's
we
some
get
very good teams in the AFC.
absolutely. Now we get into the playoffs. Since Rodgers' last and only Super Bowl, which was, what was it, 2000, I want to say 2010, if I'm not mistaken, 2010, 2011.
Long time ago.
They played the Steelers. I believe it was like a late fumble, and they were able to win the game. Rodgers is 7-9 in the playoffs. 7-9. And he's choked, I think, the past 3 or 4 playoff games. So the fact that you're saying Super Bowl, Super Bowl, Super Bowl, your quarterback actually, let's be honest here, your quarterback potentially can lose you the Super Bowl. He could lose you a playoff game even. And your head coach is a big question mark. You need time management. You need he's a defensive mind, which right now in the NFL is not the greatest thing to have right now. Offensive-minded head coaches are on the rise, and they're the ones that are being largely successful. So while I think this team is very, very good, you're in an incredibly tough division. You're in an incredibly difficult conference. Your quarterback is 40 years old, and in the past, I want to say 13 years, he has a losing playoff record and chokes against quarterbacks like Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, so the fact that, yes, you have some pieces. By the way, your tight end group also. Tyler Conklin's your tight end 1. He's good, not great, not top 10. Your offensive line, Mekhi Becton is a big question mark whether or not he'll even be healthy by the second half of week 1. You have a I think 38-year-old tackle in Dwayne Brown. Elijah Vera Tucker is probably your best offensive lineman. There's a lot of question marks, and especially for a 40-year-old quarterback, you're going to need help with the offensive line, and that's a big question mark. We saw what happened to Brady when he had a bad offensive line his last season in the NFL. It looked ugly. Very, very ugly. So will Rodgers have a season like that coming off of a bad season? Potentially. We just got to see it. We just got to see it in motion, and I think pushing it. I think they'll have a winning record. They'll be better. They were surprisingly good last year with bums as quarterback. Chris Streveler, Zach Wilson, Mike White, Joe Flacco. They went 7-10. Impressive, very, very impressive. So my guess is they'll probably get 3, 4, maybe 5 more wins on the year. But this is their schedule right now. This is the Jets' schedule. They very well. It's going to unlikely be, but they could start off 0-4. Realistically, they're probably going to start off 1-3. And the only wins against the Patriots. Actually, in the first 6 games, you may go at the very best 2-4. Because I don't think you're beating the Eagles. You're not beating the Chiefs. I think it's going to be. I think the iffy one they could go 3-3 to 2-4.
Buffalo.
That's the one that I can say that you go 3-3 to 2-4. That one's a big iffy. But Rodgers in Week 1 games the past 2 seasons, it has not looked good. Hell, it's even looked pretty damn ugly. So the fact that, Rodgers recently, starting off years, not so great, that could be a loss. The Cowboys, good defense, good pass rush. Micah Parsons, we're going to talk about it later when we do our Harvey Honors NFL edition. He's going for Defensive Player of the Year. Against a questionable offensive line, that could be dangerous. The Patriots always have a good defense. The offense is the big question mark, but let's just say they beat them there. Chiefs, enough said. Broncos, huge question mark. Is Russell Wilson going to be good? I have no idea. Philadelphia with that front 7. And Jalen Hurts, and A.J. Brown, and Devontae Smith, and a phenomenal offensive line, and DeAndre Swift. I mean, say less. You very well could start off maybe 1-5. There's a chance you go 0-6 here. There is a chance. Unlikely, very unlikely, but there is a chance.
I don't think they'll go 0-6.
I think probably the best is 2-4. If you go 2-4, you would obviously win against the Broncos and the Patriots.
Beat the Broncos. You think the Patriots are going to lose to them, but they haven't lost to them in years now.
7 years.
7 years, and they have a better team than they had last year. I think the Patriots do. Right? They have better coaching.
That is
right?
true. Better
I think
scheming.
they have a better team too. Even on defense, I think they've improved themselves. Right?
No, I could agree with you there.
So
yeah.
I don't think it's going to be easy for the Jets to beat the Patriots.
So
and you look at the Bills are ranked higher than them in terms of making it the Super Bowl. The Cowboys are ranked higher than them. Kansas City's ranked higher than them. So I think go back to the schedule there. So I think the Broncos are a winnable game. I don't think they're going to beat the Eagles. Right? Probably the Giants are a winnable game.
Definitely.
Yeah. The Chargers maybe. The Raiders probably. Then Buffalo again at Buffalo. I don't think they're going to win that game. The Dolphins are probably better than they were last year.
Is Tua going to be healthy though? That's the big question. Is Tua going to be healthy?
Week 12, he may not be there. The Falcons, the Texans, yes. The Commanders, yes. Is that the Browns there? Yes. So, I think the record could be similar to what it was last year.
So you're going 7-10.
Very easily, it could be 7-10.
Interesting.
Very easily. I think it will be better than that, but easily it could be 7-10.
There's a chance if Rodgers repeats his performance from last season.
You think they're going to win on week 1?
I think just based on I'm big on trends. The past 2 seasons, Rodgers has fallen off a cliff, and then he slowly climbed out of the cliff. So I'm going they lose week 1 with the Bills.
I think it's unfortunate for them that they're playing the Bills on week 1.
Hey, it's Rodgers on Maybe that's Monday Night Football.
A couple of games to get their legs under them and momentum. I mean, they have a lot of new players. To start out with the Bills, I think it's very hard.
We saw what the Bills were opening day last season, too,
I don't
against
think
the Rams.
they're going to win that game.
Well, we saw what the Bills were last season against the Rams, and that's that poor offensive line.
Then they have to go to Dallas. I think Dallas will beat them, too.
I could agree with you there, absolutely.
Yeah.
The Patriots have a surprise. I think it's not about the Patriots. Actually, it is about the Patriots' defense. Will Christian Gonzalez, Jonathan Jones still being that primary cornerback, I don't love it, but they don't have any other option. You're not going to put 5'8", 100 and like
no, but they have the rookie.
Marcus.
They have the new rookie.
Right. He's the other corner. He's cornerback 2. But the fact that Jonathan Jones is your primary cornerback,
he may wind up being quarterback 1.
I think there's a good shot at that.
They have good safeties. They have Duggar
and Adrian Phillips as well.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. They have
Jalen Mills. He's going to be on the team. He's going back to safety. That's his natural position.
The defense, I have no problem with the Patriots. The defense, I think
problem. The defense is better too. They have Keon White.
Keon White. He's a good piece. Good piece. The question is though, if the Jets do have that same defense they had last season, what will that do with the Patriots' offensive line that's banged up? Or if they come back, they're not really any that good anyway.
That's the weak link in the Patriots, and
when
they have Dante Scarnecchia.
Yeah,
that's when they had the good offensive line. Since he left, they've been spotty and sputtery.
I would definitely agree with that. So I think it's going to be a tough road for the Jets to say Super Bowl. I think large part. It's interesting. It's New York. They like to hype stuff up in New York. But for instance, if Derek Carr went here, they wouldn't be saying Super Bowl. If Jimmy G went here, they wouldn't be saying Super Bowl. If any other quarterback,
I still think they would be. I think that
you think with Derek Carr,
I think they
Jets
would be
fans
saying
would be like, we're going to the Super Bowl with Derek Carr at the season. Here's the thing: Derek Carr and Aaron Rodgers both had bad years last year. It's just the fact that Aaron Rodgers is who Aaron Rodgers used to be. That perception of who Aaron Rodgers used to be is still there. Because 2 seasons ago he won the MVP for the 4th time? That's still out there. That's that image out there.
I think that
Derek Carr doesn't have that
that's
image.
relevant, right? He has a body of work that's up there with the best of them.
But right now we saw a dip. Now will that continue? Will that stay on
we'll see.
that valley, or will we see an Aaron Rodgers peak? Who knows?
I don't know.
I think it's going to be interesting. But coming up, Cooper Kupp may actually miss some time after re-aggravating an injury and having a setback, which Sean McVay calls it day-to-day. But we'll have to wait and see exactly what that means. Also, Mike Evans may be sailing to different seas next season as contract talks have stalled between him and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And finally, we dole out some Harvey Honors NFL edition. Stay tuned to find out what we have in store. The Harvey Hour will be back right after this.
You have a lot to say. Maybe you've thought, I should start a podcast. Meet Anchor, the easiest way to make a podcast ever. It's a powerful mobile app and web tool that lets you record a podcast anywhere and distribute it everywhere. It's great whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out. And it's 100% free. You can record your show straight into Anchor on your phone, iPad, or the web, using any mic you want. Record alone or with friends or co-hosts anywhere in the world. You can add background music and transitions, and your listeners can send you voice messages that you can incorporate right into your next episode. If you want to produce your show using another app, you can upload your own audio directly from web or mobile and still take advantage of Anchor's totally free podcast hosting. Once your podcast is ready to publish, Anchor can automatically distribute it to every major podcast platform. That includes Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, so your listeners can hear your show wherever they want. And on the web, you can see detailed analytics about how people are listening. Plus, you'll get a great-looking profile page where anyone can listen to your podcast or subscribe to it. And if you want to ask your audience to support your work, Anchor makes it easy to collect monthly payments from the people who love your podcast and want to see it grow. You really don't need a recording studio, expensive equipment, or a bunch of technical knowledge to deal with a podcast feed. Just get started and join the diverse community of podcasters already on Anchor. We can't wait to hear your podcast.
Introducing video podcasts on Spotify.
Transform your storytelling into a show everyone can watch
Or listen to.
Easily upload your video through Anchor, Spotify's free podcast creation tool.
So whether you're showing off a new recipe,
Interviewing an exclusive guest,
or uncovering the next mystery,
you can now reach a whole new audience with Spotify.
podcasting just became more than audio.
Create with Anchor, watch on Spotify.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name is Nathan Harvey, and as always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Let's get into our next topic of today's show. So, I believe it was yesterday, Sean McVay said that Cooper Kupp, he had a setback in a hamstring injury that he suffered at an August 1st practice. He went down. It seemed not to be that serious. He's calling it day to day, but it could be a situation where he misses actually a significant amount of time. And if it doesn't fully heal, this could be something that lingers throughout the year and probably has a decent high shot at re-aggravating it throughout the NFL season if he does come back in time for week 1. So I want to know, does this Cooper Kupp's injury put the Rams in a major trouble situation to have a comeback season?
I think so. They really, they've kind of blown up their team that they had when they won the Super Bowl, right? They really only have 3 pieces left: Stafford, Donald, and Kupp. And Kupp is on a 3-year, $80 million contract. So they need him out there on the field. And he is the playmaker, and he's Matthew Stafford's favorite target. So if he's not out there, that's going to be big trouble for them.
Absolutely, 100%. What's interesting is that Cooper Kupp's significance to this team is, I think, as we saw in that monster year, we had over 1,900 yards and I believe 16 touchdowns. Just last season alone, in the 9 games that him and Stafford played together, he accounted for a third of the Rams' target share. A third, one player. And there's, 5 receivers on a team at one point. One singular player, Matthew Stafford, targeted a third of the times. I think this is a pretty massive loss if he does miss a significant amount of time, or even if he's hindered by it.
Yeah.
He could come back healthy, but still, it's still there.
I mean, they don't have much else for receivers.
Correct.
They have Jefferson would take his spot.
He would be the
right?
wide receiver one, if he's out.
And he's a 2. He's really not a 1.
Correct.
Right? They have Demarcus Robinson, right? Who?
Old Chiefs guy.
Yeah. So, he's okay. But then the other guys, Tutu Atwell. Who the hell is he? Right? Puka Nakura. Who is he? Ben Skowronek.
He's a
He's a special teams guy. He's not even.
He caught a great pass on Baker Mayfield on that 98-yard drive against the Raiders. He had a nice catch, but no.
But they don't have much of a receiving core. I mean,
Correct.
we criticize the Patriots' receiving core. Who the hell are these guys? I don't see that the Rams have a very good receiving core.
Well, they are ranked 26th. Okay,
they're counting on Cooper Kupp.
They're
going to throw the ball to him most of the time.
Most of that is Cooper Kupp.
If he can't play, that's a real problem.
And some of the older rankings, meaning from June and July, when this wasn't even a situation, have the Rams as high as 14th or 15th on their wide receiver core. That is large part due to the fact that Cooper Kupp was so, dominant in that 1 year, 2 years ago in the Super Bowl run. I mean, he had 1,900 yards. He had double-digit touchdowns. That's how great Cooper Kupp was, that just this one guy is enough to raise your wide receiver core that much to make you, honestly, middle of the road.
Without him, it's gone to the bottom.
I think it's very, very low without Cooper Kupp because I don't think Van Jefferson is going to be leading you to the promised land. And for Tuesday, a little spoiler, I guess, or at least a little hint there. When we do our standings prediction, at least for mine, I dropped the Rams not down to the bottom because the Cardinals are still there. But with Cooper Kupp out, with what Matthew Stafford's wife is saying, the chemistry between Matthew Stafford and the rest of the players, there's something going on there that the Rams, I thought they would have at least been a decent team, a 9-8 team. I'm really not too sure about them now. If Matthew Stafford can't connect with his receivers, and now Cooper Kupp may be out, you say it's day to day, but I'm hearing, I'm looking through the grapevine here. I'm seeing stuff. I don't know how true it is, that this could be a lingering, and then it's a significant lingering injury.
Let's not forget that he had a bad injury last year, a terrible sprained ankle that required surgery.
Yeah, no,
so he's coming back from that too, and maybe, I don't know, is the hamstring on the same leg as his ankle injury? I wonder.
I'm not sure.
I don't know. It could be something that's tied into that.
Well, that's a great point. But the fact that this could be a lingering thing, it's not fully healthy, but you're healthy enough to go. You're cleared to play, so you're going to play. That this could be something where it continues throughout the season. Or it's not 100%, but it has a decently high shot at being re-aggravated throughout the year. That, I don't know, this could be something. And receivers, hamstrings are a pretty big part of a receiver's skill. They're your legs. A huge part, massive problem, and especially with the release that Cooper Kupp has. Having a screwed up hamstring, it's pretty significant for a player like him.
Based on what McVay said, he said we want a player may be able to play, but can he perform?
Right.
And performance is the bigger key for Kupp. And he said that they would hold him out longer to make sure he can be a top performer.
Right.
So he may be out 3-4 weeks. We don't know.
And I wouldn't surprise it, because the fact that Cooper Kupp, like it says here, got over a third of the targets in 9 games shows you just how much Matthew Stafford relies on Cooper Kupp. So if he's going to be out, there's a large shot. I don't have the Rams schedule up, but there's a large shot that they can go 0-4. There's a because the defense is not good. I think the only defensive piece that remains is Aaron Donald. Yeah, that's really it. That's the only piece that helps you on defense. And we saw in the preseason, the defense was abysmal. It was bad. I thought the defense would at least be not great, not even that good, but at least somewhat respectable, and then just flat out weren't. So I have a lot of worries now about the Rams, so much so that I'm saying not only are they going to have a losing season, they're going to be...
maybe a couple will recover.
But even then, I don't love the fact that Matthew Stafford's wife is saying that the receivers are calling him sir, and he feels too old now to be a quarterback in the NFL, because all these guys...
What's his wife know? I mean, come on. She's not out there playing.
Correct, but I guarantee Matthew Stafford's telling her stuff. And the question is that a private conversation that should have been spoken out on her podcast? I'm not entirely sure.
She has her own podcast?
She has her own podcast. We have our own podcast.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people. Podcast is the new thing.
Yeah, well.
It's stuff like that.
I don't mind competing with his wife.
Hey, she has the inside information. That's someone that we don't necessarily have. But the fact that got out there, how Matthew Stafford doesn't have this tight connection with the young receivers on the squad, that puts in jeopardy potentially, if Cooper Kupp's out, some timing issues, some coordination issues between Matthew Stafford and the receivers. And Matthew Stafford already, we saw last season, the season before, he at times has bad turnover issues that cost games. So I don't know. This is going to be a major loss if Cooper Kupp misses a significant amount of time.
Overall,
or even
I don't think the
Rams.
I don't think the Rams are going to be that good this year anyway.
I had hope. I had hope because they all come back healthy. That was the big thing.
They don't have look at that receiver core. Even if Kupp is out there, everyone knows they're going to go to him.
Right.
They can double team him.
Right.
So I don't know. I hope he's out there. I like watching him play. He's a great player. He really made the difference for them in the Super Bowl win.
Absolutely.
Right? They went to him, and he made some big plays. So I hope he's back out there. If he isn't, I think it's bad news for the Rams.
Absolutely. Let's stick with wide receivers, and let's talk about something that broke early this morning, and that is the fact that Mike Evans has set a deadline, a firm deadline, which I believe is September 9th, for the Buccaneers to extend his contract. Now, he's basically saying that after this year, if you don't sign me to an extension by September 9th, he'll probably, move on to greener pastures, or in the case of, the Buccaneers, sail to brighter seas. This is pretty significant for the Super Bowl winning wide receiver who has, I believe, 9 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. Now, I think that's in jeopardy this season with Baker Mayfield as his quarterback.
I agree.
However, he's still a top 10 receiver in the league. I think it's very difficult, keeping him out of that top 10 list. But I want to know, is there a decent shot? Is there any shot that Mike Evans will re-sign. They will give him an extension that he likes, that he will sign, and he'll stay with the Bucs. And any chance that actually happens?
I think yes, there is a chance. I think that they're making the smart move by not giving it to him now. They want to wait and see how the season goes. I mean, he's a 10-year player. He's not a youngster. So he is a great receiver. I mean, he's had 9 consecutive 1,000-yard years, and he's a chance to break the record. Rice has it at 11, right? So he only has 2 more years to get to that. He has 10,425 yards of total receiving yards, 81 TDs. Only 5 players have done that. Rice, Moss, Marvin Harrison, and Calvin Johnson. So he's playing in very elite company, and he's probably a Hall of Famer, right? But he wants 3 years, $80 million. He wants Cooper Kupp contract. And I think unless the Bucs are contending this year and they find that they find something that puts them up there in contention, I don't think they'll give him that contract, and they're just going to wait and see. And what harm does it for them to wait and see? I don't know what does this ultimatum mean? It means nothing. I mean, if they came to him at the last day of the season and said, "We're going to give you 3 years, $80 million," you think he'd walk away from that?
Absolutely not.
Yeah,
I wouldn't.
So this doesn't mean anything. I don't think.
That is actually a really good point, though, and I feel like I mentioned that before, but maybe I haven't. If the Bucs aren't contending, they're going for trade assets. They're going for trade pieces.
When is the trade deadline?
It's middle of the year.
Okay, so they'll watch and see how things go. They're not going to let him, if he plays out his contract, they get nothing, so maybe they trade him.
That's what I'm saying.
They could
for
probably
a
do that.
player like that, you don't want to give that up for free and have any teams be like, "Yeah, we'll take him." Sure, no, you want to get something for him.
They're going to think, "Well, we're in rebuild. We could get some picks for him."
And that's why I think you could see maybe Mike Evans and Chris Godwin go. You let the third string wide receivers and all the young receivers, they get more playing time there. And you get, I guarantee you, Mike Evans is a first-round pick. Chris Godwin probably gets you a first-round pick as well. Although with his injury history, I'm not entirely sure you get a first-round pick there. However, Mike Evans, I guarantee you, will get you a first-round pick. If you're 2-5, 2-6, let's say it's week 8, and Baker Mayfield, let's say Baker Mayfield gets benched by the middle of the year and Kyle Trask is in. You're probably going to want to give up your best players because you have no shot at turning the season around. I mean, the Bucs right now are in an interesting spot. Devin White asked for a contract extension. He actually requested a trade, but I don't think he realized he had a 5th-year option, or there was something weird there. Levante David, this is probably going to be his last year there. The Bucs are in a weird situation where they have a lot of young guys and they have some old guys, and it worked when Tom Brady was there, but now you have Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask. You're not really in contention. Hell, you're not even really in contention to win the NFC South. You're in a bad spot right here. So you actually bring up a good point. There's a chance that the Bucs will be like, we're not going anywhere. You're going to be stuck here. There's nothing for you to do here. I mean, we have Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask as your quarterback.
I'd pile up some high draft picks.
That's what I would do.
Right, and rebuild.
So
depending on what happens, they're in the driver's seat here. I think that this ultimatum, if I were them, it doesn't mean anything really. I would say we're going to play some games here and see how we do. If we're doing very poorly, we're going to trade the top pieces we have and get some high draft picks for them, and we'll be in sort of a rebuild mode. I
think it's interesting whether or not that it. I hope for the Bucs and Mike Evans' sake, actually more so for the Bucs' sake, that this isn't like a Lamar Jackson thing where we're done talking about it, but then we'll open it up in the offseason. It seems like Mike Evans is like, okay, if it comes around September 9th, if I don't get an extension, I'm gone.
But he's going to play the year there.
Right.
And he's going to play the best he can because he wants a great contract. So
I would hope so.
It works to the Bucs. Everything about this works to the Bucs' advantage.
But I really think...
I don't think Mike Evans has any real leverage here at all.
If Mike Evans is saying, okay, September 9th, if I don't have an extension I like, at the end of this season, I'm gone. There's no money you can give me. I think that is a realistic thing. I'm not sure what Mike...
No, you know what? He can say that. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, I'm
when
thinking
the big money's on the table, the players take it.
Hey, maybe Mike Evans isn't going for money. Now, this could be a case where obviously he's going for money, But I mean,
they can franchise tag him too. They could do that. It cost them $28 million, $28.4 million to franchise tag him, but they have that option too. He'd be unhappy about that probably, right? Because that's another year off his longevity, and he's no youngster. So I just think the Bucs have all the cards here. I don't think Mike Evans really has much leverage.
I think there is a more than 50% chance we will see Mike Evans in a different uniform next season. Because
how about halfway through this season?
I think if the Bucs start very poorly and Baker Mayfield's benched by up until the trade deadline, Mike Evans will be gone. And
I think if they think they're not going to be able to re-sign him, and even if they're doing reasonably well, they might trade him too.
I really
because they get nothing otherwise.
I really think,
they think they could franchise tag him, and he wouldn't be all upset about it. But I'm sure he would be. I would be if I were him.
This just came into my head, and I really think this could happen. If Mike Evans is on the market by the trade deadline, I guarantee you the Chiefs would give up a first-round pick and more to go out and get him, because they don't really have nothing. They got Kadarius Toney. They got Sky Moore. I mean, I believe they still have Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
Kadarius Toney is always hurt too.
I mean, on the Giants he was. On the Chiefs,
he got hurt in the Chiefs too.
Yeah, he got tweaked. I think sometime throughout the year. But I mean, I think the Chiefs may give up that first-round pick to have a 6'5", 6'6", incredible receiver, top 10 receiver. Hey, I think that'd be a deadly combination right there.
Maybe that's what Mike Evans is when he says this. Maybe he's hoping for a trade.
I think that could be I think that's a more than likely scenario.
I mean, he's a Hall of Famer, I think.
No, absolutely. I think he'll get into the Hall of Fame.
He has
as well.
a Super Bowl ring, so I think that right now his $16.5 million salary is the 17th highest. So he's not up there. Given his where he is currently and his talent, he's really a little underpaid, I think.
I would
right
put him
now,
in the top
but he
10
took his
receivers.
contract back before the wide receiver became the elite position, and everyone started getting these big contracts. So
Right.
he was a little behind the curve there.
I mean, who could know that the league would change this drastically? It wasn't a gradual change. It seemed like as soon as Mahomes came into the league, 2018, the entire NFL went, okay, that works. We're doing that. There wasn't this, okay, there's one or two players there. It works more often than it fails. Let's think about this. No, this went from Mahomes 2018, 5,000 yards, 50 touchdowns, and then since 2018, the entire NFL just went huge reverse, only offense, pump into the offense, not this balanced or not into the defense like it used to be in the early 2000s of running game and defense. Now it's just wide receivers, offensive line, and quarterback. That's it. Not even running back anymore. I don't know. The NFL has changed in a large part. I think, honestly, for the better. For advertisers, for the viewer, no one wants to see a 3-0 game. No one wants to see a 10-7 game. They want to see 28-24, 35-31. They want to see that type of games. Explosive offense. Hey, and then I think Mike Evans had over 200 yards against the Panthers late last season when Brady had over 400 yards in that game. I mean, that was explosive. That was exciting, and that's what Mike Evans gives you.
He's a great receiver.
Absolutely.
No doubt about it.
I believe it is time for the inaugural Harvey Honors, where we have ESP for the next 15, 20 to 25 minutes, where we try to predict who will end up getting MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Offensive Rookie, Defensive Rookie of the Year, and Coach of the Year. Let's see if we can nail it down. We're gonna alternate. So MVP, Offensive Player.
Okay.
So this is what we're doing now. So let's jump in to my MVP pick for the 2023-2024 NFL season is Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is my pick for the MVP. Now this, honestly, is more so. This I guarantee you, this will have the Embiid effect that we saw in the NBA. It's about time Joe Burrow gets his MVP award. I mean, he's right there neck and neck with Mahomes. He has the 3-1 record against Mahomes. Honestly, he's played better than Mahomes in each of one of those games. And if Mahomes is truly the greatest player in the league, why is this one quarterback probably his kryptonite in a head-to-head battle between those two quarterbacks? I think personally, Joe Burrow, this is the year Joe Burrow gets it. I was between Jalen Hurts and Joe Burrow. I decided to go with the player that could actually be on top of the AFC potentially, and the one that I think probably is I think universally is at least the second best quarterback in the league. I think Joe Burrow takes a little bit of a leap here. It has sort of an Embiid effect where people are like, I guess he deserves it now. He's a great quarterback, phenomenal quarterback, number 2, and I think the closest quarterback right now in the league, I think it's Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow, and then I think there's a pretty decent gap between 2 and 3, and Joe Burrow is the closest to being sort of surpassing Mahomes as the best quarterback in the league. Let's go with your MVP pick.
I pick Mahomes.
There it is.
I just think, how can you not pick him? I think he's shown he's consistently great, and maybe his receiving core this year is not quite what it has been in some of the past years, but he still has the mobility. He still has the smarts out on the field. He makes some ridiculous throws, the no-look throws sometimes. I think his team is a Super Bowl caliber team and likely will get back to the Super Bowl. So I think with 13 wins and deep into the playoffs and a Super Bowl perhaps again this next year, and maybe 5,000 yards passing and a good touchdown interception ratio, I look for Mahomes to be the MVP.
Fair enough. Let's get into, I believe it's Offensive Player of the Year. My Offensive Player of the Year is Justin Jefferson, wide receiver of the Minnesota Vikings. Now, what I'm being told, at least on from my friends, is this guy has a very good shot at becoming the greatest receiver in NFL history. I mean, I think he's on track for that. He's probably on track to be the first 2,000-yard receiver, and that's with Kirk Cousins as his quarterback. So last season, with Kirk Cousins, the guy who, when the lights are the brightest, he comes up the smallest, that's his quarterback. The wide receiver is a very, very dependent position, and that's on the quarterback. With Kirk Cousins as his quarterback, he got 1,800 yards, 8 touchdowns. And the season before that, 1,600 yards, 10 touchdowns. The season before that, 1,400 yards, 7 touchdowns. This guy is a machine. He is a machine, a well-oiled, on fire, burning bright machine. Justin Jefferson is right now the best wide receiver in the NFL. Also has the best touchdown celebration in the NFL as well. I mean, this guy, hands down best receiver in the league at the moment. Justin Jefferson, I think right now, Offensive Player of the Year, regardless of who his quarterback is. Hell, it could be Mac Jones. I think Justin Jefferson would still be phenomenal because Kirk Cousins, he's a B quarterback at the very best. And like I said before, when the lights are the brightest, Kirk Cousins definitely is the darkest quarterback out there. He's not lit at all. I think Justin Jefferson right now, the way he's been playing. He won Offensive Player of the Year last season. I think he comes up back-to-back Offensive Player of the Year. I go 2-time Offensive Player of the Year, Justin Jefferson, as my pick. Your pick now is?
My pick is Jamar Chase. And you can see he's got number 1 on his uniform there. So he's going to be the number 1 Offensive Player of the Year. And I think it's really close between him and Jefferson has the better stats in his career so far. But you have to look at who's throwing in the ball. I mean, the receiver, the Offensive Player of the Year, if it's going to be a wide receiver, you got to count on the quarterback getting them the ball and getting it to them accurately and often. And I would say that Joe Burrow has a better shot at doing that to Jamar Chase than Kirk Cousins has to Jefferson.
That is a fair point. That is a fair point.
Yeah. So I like Jamar Chase.
All right, let's go for Offensive Rookie of the Year. I'm going with a guy that I don't believe in his team, but I think I believe in him in enough to be the Offensive Rookie of the Year, and that's I guess we're doing Defensive Player of the Year, sorry. Micah Parsons, that's what we're doing. Let me switch it up a little bit then. So Defensive Player of the Year, Micah Parsons. So he's a 2-time All-Pro first-team defensive player. He's a 2-time Pro Bowler. This is his 3rd year in the NFL. His 13 sacks his rookie year, 13 and a half his sophomore season. There's only 2 other players in NFL history that have had that. The first 2 seasons where he's had 13 or more sacks, and one of them is Reggie White. Ever heard of him? Yeah, exactly my point. He's been the runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year his first 2 seasons. I think this is a time where he gets it. He's a dominating force on that Cowboys defensive front. I mean, this guy is absolutely insane with the pass rush. The Cowboys defense, we know, is incredible, and that's largely due to the fact that Micah Parsons is out there shredding offensive lines, getting sacks, generating pressures, and being an all-around phenomenal defensive player. Since we're doing Defensive Player of the Year, who's your Defensive Player of the Year?
I think your choice is a good one, but I think Nick Bosa is the better of the two. And so I'm picking him. He's holding out on a contract issue right now, but the 49ers are smart enough to know they're not going to the Super Bowl without him. So, and they're off. The other thing I would say, I think the San Francisco's defense overall is better than Dallas's. And so they're going to focus on, they can't focus on one player as much in the San Francisco's defense as they can in Dallas's. So I think they'll have a plan for Micah Parsons that will restrict him from getting to the quarterback a little more this year because they can cover the other pieces that aren't quite as good. And San Francisco's setup, though, that's not quite as true, and I think Nick Bosa will be getting to the quarterback quite a bit this year.
I think the big question mark there is whether or not they sort out that situation that they're dealing with right now with Nick Bosa holding out. I think that's the major point here is are they going to do it? And it seems like I'll probably agree with you. By week 1, I think they will get something done with Nick Bosa. But
It'll be soon.
If they don't, I don't know. I think that could hinder potentially Nick Bosa's chance of being Defensive Player of the Year. All right, now let's get into the Rookie of the Years. Like I was talking about before, I don't necessarily believe in his team, but I kind of believe in the player at least being Offensive Rookie of the Year, and that's Bijan Robinson, the running back. So honestly, a lot of things set up really, really well for Bijan Robinson winning this award. First off, he's in a great run-heavy scheme. He's a running back, run-heavy scheme. Perfect fit right there. Last season, the Falcons had the highest graded run-blocking guard, and that's Chris Lindstrom. He was a right guard. Highest grade. I think he had like a 92.3 or a 93.2. Very, very high grade. He has this is surprising. He has a top 10 offensive line. The Falcons have a top 10 offensive line. And here's something else that actually benefits him and puts this award in sort of in his wheelhouse. Since 1967, 35 out of 56 years, running backs have won Offensive Rookie of the Year. So there's another thing. And also, in the preseason, we saw the first touch was instant success. So I think right now, with the way the rookies are, I know who your Rookie of the Year is, your Offensive Rookie of the Year is. The problem with that is offensive line. The player that you have doesn't have a good offensive line. At least
player.
You're
You're talking about your player. I'll get to mine in a minute.
I'm just saying. At least my running back, at least my player, has a top 10 offensive line and has the highest rated run blocking guard. So
yeah.
Let's get into your pick. I sort of hinted it at there.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I like Bryce Young. I think he brings a lot to the table. He was the number 1 draft pick of Carolina. Carolina has a great coaching staff around him with Frank Wright as the head coach, who was a quarterback in his career. And I think Bryce Young has a great opportunity as long as he can get just a little protection back there. He is very mobile. Then I think he'll have a good year, good enough to get him Rookie of the Year.
I think that's a fair point. But that offense we saw against the Jets, did he even have 2 seconds before he was getting pummeled into the ground?
I know. Well, he can take a hit. We learned that. They hit him hard.
That is fair.
But I think in his division, he's going to be playing some teams that aren't that great, so he could shine there.
Could be.
And their schedule is not one of the toughest, so I think he has a chance to win Offensive Rookie of the Year.
And that's another thing with my running
I think
back.
your choices your choices probably has a pretty good chance too, because the Falcons do have a very good offensive line, and running backs have had good success winning Offensive Player of the Year. So.
Not only that, they have the 31st hardest schedule in the league. And you talk about the Panthers playing some easy teams. The Saints have the 32nd hardest schedule in the league.
Yeah.
So they're going to be up. They're going to be at it.
The Saints or the Falcons?
The Saints have the 32nd hardest
okay,
schedule.
but
They have the easiest one. The Falcons.
Robinson.
He plays for the Falcons,
yeah.
right? But you said that he'll be playing some teams in his division that aren't that good.
Yeah.
Well, they have easy schedules, so they might not be that good, but their record may be better just based on the teams they play.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
Yeah, we will see. Let's get into Defensive Rookie of the Year. This was a shock, at least, just based on the circumstances, and that's Jalen Carter on the Eagles. So since Hargrave left to go to the 49ers, this puts Jalen Carter right in the spotlight to succeed instantly. Now, in his position, defensive tackle, it isn't all about sacks. There's also they stretch out what the greatness of a defensive tackle. That's run stuffs. That's double teaming guards, so you allow your other players to go out and pressure the quarterback. It's QB pressures, and then it's sacks. Jalen Carter, we saw him in college, a very, very dominant defensive front guy. He's a pure disruptor. We saw in camp. I mean, the huge thing going to this draft, he fell based on his off-the-field issues, but it seems like that was really a non-factor. That's a non-issue now for the Eagles. He's been dominating in camp. I think Jalen Carter is going to have a lot of success. I think he's going to generate a lot of pressures. Not necessarily he'll get 10 sacks. Can he get 4 or 5? I think there's a chance he can get 4 or 5 because I really, really believe Jalen Carter is that type of guy. And you know what? He has the talent to do it. A lot of people thought if you take away his off-the-field stuff and just look at his playmaking, that he could be a better defensive player than Will Anderson, and he should have been probably drafted higher than Will Anderson if it wasn't for off-the-field stuff. That definitely dinged his draft value just a little bit. But I think with the Eagles, that dominating defensive front, keeping guys fresh, subbing in and out, I think Jalen Carter's in a perfect situation to go out and win Defensive Rookie of the Year. Let's get into yours now.
You mentioned mine, Will Anderson. I think he's going to get it. They traded up to get to him, and I think they made a smart move by drafting C.J. Stroud second and then moving up to pick Will Anderson on defense. So they have two potential superstars, one on offense, one on defense. So that will be they can build their team around these guys. And I think Will Anderson is going to win the Defensive Rookie of the Year.
And now we come to the final one, which is Coach of the Year. I believe in this guy. I said, as soon as the season ended, actually throughout, I've said I like this coach a lot, and I think it's finally his time to shine. So my Coach of the Year is Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell, head coach of the Detroit Lions. And I'm going to tell you right now, I've already predicted this. He will lead his team to their first division win in 30 years. 1993 was the last time the Lions won the NFC North. And not only that, I guarantee you there is a large shot. I understand that playoffs is not necessarily, mixed into this, but I do think, a little bit of sugar, sprinkling sugar on top, it sort of does get woven into what matters most. And I think because, the Brian Daboll led the Giants to the playoffs as well, and they won a playoff game. I guarantee you. Now, on the books, they're not going to say it, but I think that playoff win definitely helped this case. I guarantee you, Dan Campbell has put this team in a position to win their first playoff game since 1991, over 30 years ago. He's built up a great culture with the Lions. He instills confidence in his players. He's built up a phenomenal offensive line. He's got definitely some great weapons. Jared Goff doesn't look half bad. So, I'm taking this. They have a top 5 offensive line right now. Dan Campbell, Coach of the Year candidate. I love it. I love it a lot. I think he's going to win the division. I think there's a large chance he wins the first playoff game since 1991. Dan Campbell is my Coach of the Year.
Oh, I think you might have beyond something there. I think the division this year for him is weak.
Yeah.
Right. The Aaron Rodgers is no longer with the Packers, and the Bears are perennial cellar dwellers. So maybe Minnesota. I don't know. We'll see how they do. I think they played over their heads last year, so I think they may come back to earth. You might be right there, but I am picking Bill Belichick, my favorite coach of all time, and I think he's going to have the Patriots performing much higher than people's expectations, and will get into the playoffs and go deep into the playoffs, and that will get him Coach of the Year.
Deep into the playoffs. Yeah. That's great.
I like that outfit you got him in there. Yeah. The red sweatshirt with the sleeves cut off. That's his signature.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, this
Patriots hat with the logo on it, very nice.
And a visor.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, this picture was taken this offseason. Uh-huh. I think that's the first time he wore it since I think he wore it at a Super Bowl that they lost.
That's right, they lost.
I think that's the first time he wore it since that Super Bowl. I could be wrong. I think that was the first time in this preseason. So there it is. Now I don't have a necessarily a Friday fun day topic lower third. However, I did come across this right before the show, and I find it pretty interesting. Ronald Acuna Jr., the Atlanta Braves, became the first player in MLB history to go for 60 stolen bases and 30 home runs. And that 30th home run was a grand slam.
Wow.
So there you go. We got MLB history, the 100-plus years of the MLB. There you go. Something that's never been done before. There's not many of those, stuff that's never been done.
My prediction, I have one little small prediction here. If the Red Sox don't win the series against the Kansas City Royals this weekend, then they're done for one, and Alex Cora will be fired.
I think regardless of what happens, Alex Cora's going to get fired regardless. At the end of the year, I think the GM and Alex Cora both gone.
If the Red Sox get back into the playoffs and win the World Series, Alex Cora won't get fired. But that ain't happening. And I agree with you. I think he's gone.
That's the miracle Mets level, right?
The way
there.
he coached that series against Houston, they were in the lead, and he took out Sale and put in that other guy who everyone knew he was terrible, and then left him in the whole game, the rest of the game. They had the lead. That could have turned the tide. They could have won 2 out of 3 from Houston. Instead, they lost all 3. Terrible. Terrible.
Yeah, so this is the this. I'm not gonna say it's the final Friday because obviously it's not. Next Tuesday is the first Tuesday show of the new Harvey Hour. It's the 100th episode of season 3 of the Harvey Hour. Next Friday begins season 4. Got a lot in store, brand new graphics, brand new system here. We got a new Harvey hot hand. It's gonna be new. It's gonna be renovated. It's gonna be fresh. It's gonna be new.
We'll be reinvigorated.
We have some AI voice technology now that I'm implementing.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, no. But Tuesday's a massive show. My top 10 quarterbacks, my Nate's Notches, which is my NFL tier ranking system. We got my second to last standings predictions. We have your technically second to last standings predictions as well. Your first, which will be your second to last standings predictions. Tuesday's a massive show. This could be a 2-hour show. We were hoping to get a 2-hour special going on. There is a chance that we could hit 2 hours and break some Harvey Hour records here. But yeah, we start Tuesday next week. We have a lot of stuff planned. The new year, we're already planning some stuff for 2024. There's going to be a lot new that's coming out. I'm excited for it. We're excited for it. So make sure you stay tuned. But for this episode of the Harvey Hour, my name's Nathan Harvey. That's my dad, Stephen Harvey. We are the co-hosts of the Harvey Hour. Catch us Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, right here on YouTube.
Hi, Grandpa.
Introducing video podcasts on Spotify
Transform your storytelling into a show everyone can watch
or listen to.
Easily upload your video through Anchor, Spotify's free podcast creation tool.
So whether you're showing off a new recipe,
Interviewing an exclusive guest,
or uncovering the next mystery,
you can now reach a whole new audience with Spotify.
podcasting just became more than audio.
Create with Anchor, watch on Spotify.